So some of the most quality time I had ever spent with my father was at Panama City Beach. And some of my best memories with him are there, which is it's also just very interesting that that's where he ended up passing away and that I was there for it, which I'm there maybe 4 days a year. What are the odds of that? But anyway, so we, the day after, I guess the 28th, we go to the funeral home where they have his body, and I say my goodbyes, and because he's being cremated there. I get back from that. I just wanted to go down to the beach alone and to where we would always walk together and sort of, look for a sign, or I was like, maybe I'll find a special shell or something like that. And so I go down to the beach. I'm just sobbing. And I'm walking along, kind of, looking at the ground, looking for shells. And then there's this man sitting on the shore. And to my left, it's a beautiful day. And he goes, "Look at that fish." And I looked over, and there was a 4 foot long fish swimming right next to me at exactly the pace that I was walking. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I swear I heard my dad's voice in my head saying, "I'm right here."
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernard Beitman, MD. Yeah, this is my Dr. Beitman, Dr. Coincidence outfit I've got right now, because we're celebrating the beginning of two things. One is the birth of my new book, just came out. Life-changing synchronicities, and there's a lot of stories of mine in there. But one of the things about synchronicities is most of the time, or too many times, people share a synchronicity, but they don't talk about it. They don't talk about the meaning to each of them of the sharing of the coincidence. Well, this is the first of a shared coincidence or shared synchronicity set of podcasts within my podcast, Connecting with Coincidence. This is connecting with the connectors, the people who connect through synchronicity. And this is going to be a lot of fun, because my guest today and I had a really good one here in Charlottesville, and I'm going to introduce her, and then we're going to get into what happened between the two of us and more. And the idea being, Karli and me are going to talk about what it meant to each of us, these synchronicities between us. Karli is a coloratura soprano based in New York City. She's from Indiana and studied in northern Michigan, and then Indiana University, and then went down to Louisiana, all in pursuit of being an opera singer. An opera singer. She's had that deeply in her genes, her feeling. With a last name like Forte, you begin to have a musical thing going for you, and she does, and she is. Her father warned her, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" Well, she ended up doing a lot of singing, and one of the things that she sings is the opera called Scalia and Ginsburg. And it just so happens that opera was the last time she performed, and the opera she performed happened to be in Charlottesville, Virginia, where I happen to also live. So I'm going to leave it to Karli to tell us what happened. She's in Charlottesville, major life transition happening before that and during that. So Karli, welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. And I I'm going to say how much fun it was singing with you along the river, but that's the end part of this. So, Karli, what happened to you in Charlottesville that brought us together?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be talking with you again and to be on this inaugural podcast for all of your amazing recent work. Okay, so what happened? Um, Going back to the beginning is Charlottesville is somewhere that I have done most of my professional um, work as a singer. I was with the Charlottesville Opera as an aid or emerging artist for 2 summers, and I had come back for some concerts and some work with the Oratorio Society. So I was so excited when they announced they were doing Scalia Ginsburg, which is one of my very favorite roles, which, of course, I was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Um, I am 5'1" and brunette, so I really look the part, and it is such a wonderful, fun opera. So I was really excited to find out that Charlottesville was doing it, and I love to return there. Um, so my second summer, I had about 2 days before I had returned to Charlottesville, been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so that threw the rest of my summer for a real spin. And so that summer I was just really struggling. I was dealing with this grief of myself and my body and my health, and because I had always felt so free in being so healthy because my older sister is type 1 diabetic. So I really struggled that summer. um, I decided to then move to New York City. I got a job working with a wonderful uh, lifestyle management and travel company, which has been so fun because all my friends are in New York. And Um, but it's taken me away from singing quite a bit. And but that was a choice, right? Because the singing lifestyle is hard on your body. It's not lucrative necessarily. So I've actually really been enjoying singing less professionally. Of course, I still sing in my free time recreationally. And I, of course, just did a contract. So I still do things when I'm called to. But I went, so I had been in New York for 2 years, got the call that Charlottesville was doing Scalia Ginsburg, was so excited to take it. And then now forwarding, or I guess reversing, um, I was going to visit my parents in Florida in February. And the day after I had arrived there, my father had a heart attack and passed away. And this was about 2 weeks before I was supposed to come to Charlottesville for Scalia Ginsburg. So we got, or I guess it was 3 weeks. So obviously it was unimaginably heartbreaking. I got my mom back to Indiana. We had the funeral. I came back to New York for a few days before because I knew he would have wanted me to continue this contract. He would have been so mad if I canceled it, especially because of something to do with him. He had struggled with heart issues for a long time, and he was always very adamant that I needed to just carry on. And so I come back to New York. He also passed away right before his 71st birthday. So his 71st birthday was March 11th. He passed away February 27th. And so I knew I only had 5 days between getting back from the funeral and departing for Charlottesville. So I gathered all my friends together and we celebrated his birthday. And one of my friends gifted me a copy of Signs by Laura Lynne Jackson, and which is a wonderful book that really aids in the process of grief. And I said, this is great. I'll read this when I get to Charlottesville, because I'm thinking back on how healing Charlottesville was for me after my diabetes diagnosis. You know, it's somewhere I feel so comfortable, and I love the community and I love the nature. So I was like, this will be really great for me to read when I get to Charlottesville. So fast forward a few days, I arrive into Charlottesville. And that night I sit down and I say, pour myself a cup of tea. And I open the book Signs, and lo and behold, the first name I see is Dr. Bernard Beitman of University of Virginia, Charlottesville. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. Here I am. I just arrived. I'm sitting here. And, you know, the work being about coincidences, specifically about coincidences. I said, well, that is a pretty major coincidence. So I instantly reached out to Dr. Beitman and kind of wrote to him to tell him the story. And the following week, we ended up meeting and having a wonderful conversation in the park. And that is what happened. And now here we are, full circle. So
Yeah, here we are, and we had some more circles, as we will discuss. The idea that you wrote to me, and I say, "What's this?" I get this email, and this is what shared synchronicities are going to be about. Is like you had your part of the story, but then there was my part of the story. I'm saying, "What? This is the weirdest email I've ever written," you said in that thing, and I didn't know how true any of this was. And Signs is a very popular book, and it's full of stories of people who have died, seemingly to communicate with the people who are alive, who miss them. The signs are full, many of them, of flowers blooming and music playing that shouldn't be playing at this time, that is reminiscent of, or almost a signature of, the person who has passed. So it's an important book to help people believe that their loved one might still be around in some form or another. And that's what you were looking for. And that's what the book helps people do. So that was another push for you. And then you reading this book and you see my name, you happen to notice that you love Charlottesville and you have me sitting in Charlottesville, and you send it to me, and I'm saying, I didn't even know my name was at the beginning of it. Uh, we asked the author Laura Lynne Jackson to help publicize this current book, this book that's out now, Life Changing Synchronicities. We never heard from her. She used my name, but she wouldn't help me with hers. She is very, very popular, but she didn't, and that still is. There was a kind of a link there, and she was talking about ideas that I include in my book. So there was an overlap, and you could see it. But my reaction to seeing what you'd written to me was like, that's intriguing. I'm not sure about what I should do about this. So I went to dance. I got it on a Sunday morning. I got your message on a Sunday morning, and I go to dance usually now Thursdays and Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, Sunday morning. I go to dance, and this friend of mine there afterwards says, "Hey, I wanted to tell you something. A friend of mine gave me this book called Signs, and I open it up, and there's your name right at the beginning." So 3 hours after I get Karli's email, I get this person from dance telling me almost the same story. That's a coincidence about a coincidence. Those are remarkable too. So Karli never would have known that if we hadn't been talking about it. So that's why this whole idea of talking about both sides of the story of a coincidence is something that I'm trying to encourage people to do. There are couple of people in my book, Life-Changing Meaningful Coincidences, that I'm also going to have on my show. One of them, my best friend from high school, with whom I had a life-changing synchronicity. And the other one, my son, Carlin, who's a life-changing synchronicity anyway, all on himself with me. So he's going to be on there. We've had plenty. So to hear the other side of it, and for, again, Karli to hear, again, that I had a coincidence like the one you created with me happen 3 hours later, that kind of adds some more fuel to this, the importance of these possibilities. So I said, opera singer, Scalia Ginsburg, and one of my patients was going to go to your performance. I was going to be out of town, so I showed him your picture, uh, and he was kind of, oh yeah, she's an opera singer and she has this history. So I said, okay. So I responded, and you were enthusiastic, and we went to along the river here in Charlottesville, Riverview Park, and then what happened?
Well, a lot of things
A
happened. We
lot of
had
things.
an amazing conversation. We got to sing some songs together that was really beautiful. Um,
I got you to sing for me, sitting on a
yes.
park bench, and I could hear how beautiful your voice was, and the thrill of being able to sit next to you and to watch your vibrato right next to me was like just wonderful. It just transformed from the way you're talking now into so there was part of the synchronicity was simply the enjoyment we had of each other and being able to hear you sing, and then to have you later tell me when I did a couple of songs, you said to me, you kind of do half steps pretty well. And I
Yeah.
I didn't even know what a half step was until you labeled it, because I was just
Mm,
copying people. That was some part of the fun. So this is a paired synchronicity, talking with each other, where we both had a lot of fun with each other. But why don't you tell us also about the birth date? I mean, the death date of your father, and how that affected you with me.
so this really blew me away was I had talks about it. I think that there's really something to that my father passed away the day after I arrived to visit him on vacation,
Yes,
which was February 27th. And to find out that's your birthday, but then also, right, the day that your own father passed away.
right.
That is unbelievable. I can't get over that still.
And when you say you can't get over it, here's where the part of the fun for me is, and I hope for you, is you can't get over that. But how does that impact you? Your father died the day after you arrived, so you would be there when he died, just to be clear about that.
Mhm.
February 27th, which is my birthday, which is also the day on which my father died. How does that all run around in your own mind, in your heart?
I mean, I think it proves the point of exactly what your work is that I mean, I that is multiple coincidences happening all wrapped up almost into like too perfect of a little bow. Do you know what I mean? And for me, I was so desperately searching for some comfort and meaning and signs, and having the conversation we had was so helpful to me in just being able to accept his death, and to see that there is a meaning, I guess, to all of these encounters that happen in life. And I think meeting you and finding out that coincidence in particular was such a comforting reminder that we are all connected.
That we are all connected, that we are all connected, and we are connected in ways in which we can comfort each other.
Yeah.
That is what I just heard more clearly, is it was comforting for you to know the mirror I was presenting to you through my own experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think and there's something you actually say in your book here. I took a note of it, that I found this to be really interesting. You said during major life stressors, coincidences are more likely to pop up, like in a birth, a marriage, or death of a loved one. And I am interested in why do you think that is? Is it just that we're paying closer attention, or like we're
That's
searching for?
it's not just, it's that we're paying closer attention, we're searching for a sign, some kind of meaning. But let's keep in mind that none of this would have happened with you and me had you not emailed me.
Right.
None of this would have happened. And if there's anything I try to make clear in this book, Life-Changing Synchronicities, is you've got to act. And I use the phrase the non-moving violation. You know, when you're driving a car and you go too fast, that's a moving violation. A non-moving violation is when you don't move when you should move.
Mm,
And
right.
you moved, you acted. None of this would have happened. Our conversation. None of the helping you heal with this would have happened had you not said, I'm going to email this guy, as weird as it
Mm,
seems. And that is a key part of it. So when we are in distress, we may do things differently. And when you do something differently, my favorite is getting lost. If you get lost, sometimes you find something that is really useful to you. It's just what happens because you're out of the ordinary. Again, you're looking around, uh, and new things are become potentially available. So you, Karli Forte, acted, and that was the whole initiation of the process for both of us.
yeah. That makes perfect sense. And for me, it was right. But I guess that makes perfect sense because it was right there. I was searching desperately for something. And I think I generally try to follow the, the, the things I notice, the coincidences in my
That's
life, the
important. That's important. That's
too.
important.
But I mean, certainly in
Yeah.
that moment in time, he was really eager.
Yes, yeah, you follow stuff. You're not reticent. I mean, just your training as a singer was like going from Indiana to way up in the area of northern Michigan to a very expensive and excellent school, Interlochen, and then back to Indiana, I guess, and then down to Louisiana. I mean, you were searching already. You were able to keep moving because you wanted to be a singer. So you had it in you. However it happens, you acted, and now we are talking about it. It wouldn't have happened without you. Desperately searching for something was a phrase you just used. When you're desperately searching, that increases the likelihood of meaningful coincidences because you're looking around and you're shuffling through a lot of stuff. You may find something that's, hey, I ought to try that.
Yeah.
And you did. The February 27th one, I've not, so just talking about shared coincidences, my side of it, my side of February 27th, that's always been a big thing to have my father die on my birthday. And in a funny, different way, the day before date-wise, February 26th. That was when you went to visit your father on February 26th. On February 26th, I was choking uncontrollably. Um, but that was 3,000 miles away from my father in Wilmington, Delaware, which was February 27th. Uh, it was 11 p.m. in San Francisco and 2 a.m. in Wilmington, Delaware. But it's still, I was experiencing February 26th choking like day before, and then he died on February 27th where he was. So there's a little bit of a funny similarity in the February 26th and 27th thing with you and me as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's and then to have this friend of mine tell me 3 hours after you emailed me that she found this book too. What this means, these are very low probability collections of coincidences. The probability is really low to have them all load up like this. And that makes them have more emotion in them. It's a little bit like when you go from your talking voice to singing Figaro, Figaro, Figaro. When you go like that, I mean, something happens, and that's kind of what we just did. We went from a talking voice to Figaro.
Okay, very good.
So why don't you tell us about your fish story?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this was really, I think it in okay, along with meeting you and this whole experience, this is one of the most meaningful things that had happened regarding my father's death. So um, he died in Panama City Beach, which is where we had always vacationed for spring break or Christmas every year, even before I was born. That's where they would go. And so some of the most quality time I had ever spent with my father was at Panama City Beach. And we would always walk up and down this very specific stretch of beach and look for shells and fly kites and do just really quality time. He worked very hard. He owned a business. So when we were at home, I didn't always get quality time like that. So some of my best memories with him are there, which is so again, it's also just very interesting that that's where he ended up passing away and that I was there for it, which I'm there maybe 4 days a year. What are the odds of that? So, but anyway, so we, the day after, I guess the 28th, we go to the funeral home where they have his body, and I say my goodbyes, and because he's being cremated there. So because we have to get him back to Indiana, so and he wanted to be cremated anyway. But we, I get back from that. I just wanted to go down to the beach alone and to where we would always walk together and sort of, look for a sign, or I was like, maybe I'll find a special shell or something like that. And so I go down to the beach. I'm just sobbing. And I'm walking along, kind of, looking at the ground, looking for shells. And then there's this man sitting on the shore. And to my left, it's a beautiful day. And he goes, "Look at that fish." And I looked over, and there was what a huge, a 4 foot long fish swimming right next to me at exactly the pace that I was walking. And it like stopped me in my tracks. And I swear I heard my dad's voice in my head saying, like, "I'm right here." Um, it, and so I walked with that fish at the same pace for about a quarter mile, and it was still going the same. It was still going, but people started to crowd around to look at it, and I was uncontrollably sobbing. So I said, "Okay, you know what? Like, that was like, thank you." And I've got to go anyway. I've got to be on my own. And so it was such a special, unbelievable moment. To come straight home from the funeral home to go down to the beach and then have him right there was unbelievable. And I came back and I looked at my mom and I said, he was at the beach. And she was so confused. She did not get it. And I took a few times telling that story for her to really understand. But it was I still think about that every day. It was unbelievable.
The feeling of walking along the beach with that fish father, Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what it felt like as you walked with him.
It's so interesting. I've never had a loss like this. And in some ways it feels like I'm living for those moments, right? Where I feel like I'm clearly getting some kind of sign from him, because in those moments it's like, oh, everything is going to be fine. Like he's with me, I can feel him, it's that those are the moments when it's the easiest, of course. And I was so raw from being at the funeral home and saying goodbye. So it was just like, I mean, it felt like this light from above. It felt like I was talking to God himself. You know what I mean? It was just this incredibly divine moment of clarity, and that I'm not alone, like that he's going to be swimming through life with me. And but on the flip side of that, it's so hard in the moments when you're not getting those clear signs, because it doesn't always feel, it's an active pursuit to remember the feeling that they are with you, because it's easy, at least for me. I mean, I'm 25, got a lot of life to live, a lot to learn, but it's something I'm really trying to work on remembering all the time, and to really internalizing that feeling, because it's so easy to forget, I guess. So I just was trying to hold on to that moment when the fish was there, because it was so incredibly special.
I'm wondering if it's another way of doing the holding on is to just know that in a quieter way, he's still around, and can feel that he's still around, even if it's not in a visual, kinesthetic form.
Mm. Yeah.
I, 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 I bring that up because a very good friend of mine, um, his father died, and I was able to channel him and tell, and he told me stuff about her which I couldn't have known, which is what happens with channeling. Uh, and his name's Tim, and I, I talk to him still. I mean, he shows up every once in a while. I kind of like when they're in that other space. Uh, you can just say their name and they show up. They don't have to like take a train or a bus or something to get there. They just move around really fast. And
Right.
and I say, Tim, she's really okay now. She's in China. We were worried about her settling in. She's very happy. I think she's bored. She doesn't act like she's very bored on when she talks on TikTok, but I think she is. It's a very pleasant life she's got, and we wanted that for her. Tim and I did, and we both were like wanting it to happen. So I said, Tim, would you kind of give me some help with what I'm working on now with this psychotherapy book? And can you organize some other people who are out there, maybe my parents, and you got some other people that can help make it happen? So a lot of this is making the request. You have to believe that that these entities are out there, and more and more I do this. I think so. I've got a book called A Field Guide to DMT entities, something like that. And when you take dimethyltryptamine, it get you often to meet creatures that are hyperdimensional from another space. They're all around us. Whatever name you want to say, they're hanging around us, and they're not just in our minds. They're out there. I mean, it's people make all kinds of different labels for it, but there's a lot of conscious entities floating around out there, and the key part of it always is to ask for the help. And you were asking for the help when you were searching, desperately searching. That was looking for some help. That's part of the way of asking for help. But you can be a little quieter about that. And I think you can probably get your father to be communicating with you by just a few
Yeah.
gentle requests.
Well, he's stubborn. And I was thinking about this, and in terms of the difference of my parents, like God forbid, when my mother passes, she'll send me signs daily. She will send me little things here and there. It'll be like I know this, but uh, with my dad, it's going to be a big, I'll get a big, really clear, obvious one, and then nothing for months, and then another. You know what I mean? It'll be some really big signs, because that is just so much. That's so his style, is to come in with one really effective moment every now and again. Um, and so I know that. So it's a patience exercise as well. Because I ask every day. I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. But yesterday I saw a Forte, my name written out on a traffic cone or something. So I think that made me stop and smile for sure.
Yeah, it's fun to see. If you look for them, some of them are random and you make meaning of them. In New York, Forte would not be an uncommon thing to be able to see. It's there. They have a few Italians in Manhattan, at least they used to. I think they still do. Uh,
A few, yeah.
They're still gonna have them happen. So you're playing with the idea, and I think that's what's important. Uh,
Mm.
the the opening your heart, opening your mind. Um, you think your father had anything to do with you getting that book signs and getting you to me?
I think so. I think that I am further away from my family. Um, they're all in the Midwest, and obviously I'm in New York. And religion isn't exactly like we grew up Catholic, and that's not exactly my uh, ideology that I subscribe to. So, and he kind of knew that, as much as he wasn't thrilled about it, but I know that he wanted me to believe in something. And it's not, I always have believed in something. It just was sort of my own version of whatever a higher power is. And so I think that this kind of coming into my life, you and the books that I've been reading coming into my life, really, um I don't know that it's coincidental. Of course, people gift you those things when because they want to help you when things happen, but it's been all the right books have come to me, and I think that that's been really amazing, and certainly a gift from whoever, but definitely him. One of the books I was reading, though, was about, this is a fun one, and I sent you this, but was a biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as I was reading for my performance in Charlottesville to brush up on my knowledge of her. And I was having a really, really hard time the night before the performance. Also, Scalia Ginsburg was the last opera my dad saw me perform. I did it at LSU it was my last opera at LSU in grad school. And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg also had lost her mother right before she graduated high school. And in a similar fashion, she knew she needed to just carry on. So it was like a few days or something before her graduation, and she still went. She did everything. She went to college in the fall at Cornell, and she was amazing. And I was remembering that about her. So I was like, maybe somewhere in this biography she talks about that experience. Well, it wasn't a biography, it was conversations with RBG. And I said, maybe there's an interview, a conversation in here somewhere where she talks about that experience, and maybe it's something that can give me some comfort as to pushing through this, because it's emotion. I mean, singing after I hadn't sung for so long itself was emotional, and to do it so soon after losing my father was just so difficult. But so I turned to the book. I was turning to the table of contents. And what I saw was actually the dedication. This book had been next to me. I'd been sleeping with it on the bed for the full 2 weeks that I'd been there. The dedication of the book was for the author's mother, right? Estelle Rosen is the mother. It says, "For my beloved mother," the dates of her life. And then the quote is, "Even when one is all grown up, death of a beloved parent is a loss difficult to bear. But you will honor your mother best if you carry on with your work and days, thriving in the challenges and joys of being alive. Isn't that just what she would have willed?" And that is a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I mean, it couldn't have gotten more direct than that, actually, because I was like, oh, maybe she discusses her experience. But what I didn't realize was that the entire book was dedicated to the loss of a parent. And there's a direct quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg on how to carry on. That was another really special moment for me.
That is a very special moment too. And our whole conversation is about the survivor of the death of a loved one, and how not only you, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her mother, and also me. I do this meaningful coincidence thing because of my dog Snapper, which my father gave me. And he got lost, I got lost, we found each other. It's at the beginning of this book, Life-Changing Synchronicities, how that happened. And because I was simultaneously choking with my father as he was dying. And those are the two major impacts on my drive to understand meaningful coincidences. There are a lot of other things that's really interesting. I'm a curious kind of guy. I like to figure things out. But the emotional drives of them have been my dog, I got from my father, and simultaneously choking with my father on February 27th, as we were able to talk about with your father dying on February 27th, too, my birthday, his death day, my father's death day. All these things were emotionally driving me to say there's something real here and something I need to keep doing. And I am continuing to do it. And you and I have continued to do that together right now, today. Karli Forte. Forte Karli. We have had a wonderful conversation here, as we had continued to have when we took our walk along the river. When you told me about the fish and going along with you walking, I couldn't get out of my head that there was a fish walking along with us on the river. I mean, that's where I thought. I mean, I didn't even know it was the fish in the ocean. Where,
Oh,
where,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, to me, I'm glad you told me. Because my image was us walking along and this fish running along with us in the river, because that's the way when if I were to tell the story, that's how I would remember the fish. So
Mm.
it was a Panama City fish, not in
Yeah,
Charlottesville,
I mean,
but
blue water, you can't see any, you can't see anything in that water. It's so blue, and you look over, and I mean, it was like 4 feet long, black fish. It was amazing.
it's amazing. It had to saying something to you, and I thank you for having this wonderful conversation with you and being able to talk about things that we shared together, not just you telling me or me telling you, but we have had several shared synchronicities. And I hope the people listening to us and watching us enjoy how much we have enjoyed being able to share this with each other. So thank you very much, Karli, for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is wonderful, and I just love talking about these things. We could go all day. But this was such a treat. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.